When it comes to protecting their IPs, Nintendo has to be one of the strictest companies in the world along with Disney. They will go after anything and anyone who seems to be infringing on their intellectual properties. We've seen them do this time and time again with various websites throughout the years. I remember a couple years ago I covered a story on a website called Viz.com, and Nintendo went after them and ordered them to take down 2,200 ROMs from their website that involved Nintendo properties, and this included ROM hacks. And it was a bit of a gray area when it came to the ROM hacks. Some people understood it, some people didn't, but obviously Nintendo is sort of within their legal right to be doing things like this. But then there's the whole ethical side of things, and that's where things get a bit murky. Now, Nintendo is once again making headlines by going after a website called LoveRoms.com. They have recently sued them as of July 19th with a formal lawsuit, and the PDF was available online. So I want to go over what this lawsuit entails, what they are saying that this LoveRoms website is infringing upon when it comes to Nintendo's properties. And then I kind of want to talk about the ethical side of things versus the legal side of things, what they should be doing and maybe what they shouldn't be doing. Is Nintendo even in the right to be going after this website? It's going to be an interesting video, so sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's get into the details about this lawsuit and whether Nintendo should even waste their time doing this.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards!
So like I said, there's a full copy of Nintendo's complaint available online, and I read over this and I saw some interesting things that I sort of wanted to highlight within their complaint. Once again, they are going after a website called LoveRoms.com and LoveRetro.co, both of which are owned by the same individual and the same company. And they are basically saying that they are infringing upon their IPs, infringing upon their copyrights, and infringing upon things that they shouldn't be doing. Now, within the lawsuit, like I said, there's some interesting things that Nintendo states in here, and I want to go over these things and then sort of come to some sort of conclusion and give my side of the story on this and give you guys my impressions of what I feel on it. So starting things off, Nintendo states that through the LoveRoms and LoveRetro websites, defendants reproduce, distribute, publicly perform, and display a staggering number of unauthorized copies of Nintendo's video games, all without Nintendo's permission. In addition to Nintendo's video games, defendants reproduce, distribute, and publicly perform a vast library of Nintendo's other copyright works, and through the LoveRoms and LoveRetro websites, including their proprietary BIOS software for several of Nintendo's video game systems and thousands of Nintendo's copyrighted musical works and audio recordings. Defendants also make extensive use of Nintendo's registered trademarks, including the Nintendo logo and the most recognizable Nintendo video game characters, to encourage visitors to download and play unauthorized copies of Nintendo's copyrighted works. Now, when you go to their website, you can definitely see that a lot of this marketing is done with Nintendo in mind. Of course, there is box art of the various video games that you can download on their website, and the banner is definitely a Super Mario inspired background as far as what is going on there. So it sort of draws people in that they could download these games illegally. So I could sort of see their standpoint on that. They are using obviously Nintendo related things to sort of draw people in, and those are some of the most popular games that are downloaded on their websites. Now, moving on, it stated that defendants know or should know that they are trafficking in pirated copies and making unauthorized use of Nintendo's video games, other copyrighted works, and registered trademarks. And they know or should know that Nintendo continues to produce, market, and sell many of the video games that appear on LoveRoms and LoveRetro's websites. Yet defendants continue willfully to infringe Nintendo's highly valuable intellectual property rights, and in the process to enrich themselves, among other things, donation requests and the sale of advertising on LoveRoms and LoveRetro websites. So basically what they're saying is they should know better. They should know what they're doing. Defendants are not casual gamers, but are instead sophisticated parties with extensive knowledge of Nintendo's intellectual property and the video game industry more generally. So basically they're saying, you know, they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that what they're doing they shouldn't be doing, and they are somewhat profiting on this, obviously through website ad space and of course donations, which you can donate through on their website. Now, where things get a bit interesting is what sort of damages Nintendo is trying to equate to this, and what sort of, you know, ramifications they're trying to have LoveRoms' website and LoveRetro's website sort of give back to Nintendo themselves. The company requests statutory damages of $150,000 per infringing Nintendo game and up to $2 million for each trademark infringement. So if you actually add it up with 140 copyrighted titles and 40 trademarks on the records, they could get $100 million from this lawsuit. And that's where things, I don't know about that. Because let's look at what Love Retro, or Love ROMs' website and Love Retro websites are all about. They're about giving you ROMs and allowing you to download ROMs for older Nintendo games. Now, Nintendo themselves stated that they are producing these games and still marketing these games, but are they really? Because aside from like the Wii U and the 3DS, the Wii U of course being a dead platform, you can't buy any of these classic games on the Nintendo Switch yet. You can't buy Super Mario Bros. 3. You can't buy The Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past on there. Sure, you could buy them on the 3DS, but is it really being marketed for that? It's not like you could go into a video game store nowadays and pick up a brand new copy of an NES or a Super NES or a N64 game. So the $100 million in damages is sort of high in my opinion, and it pretty much is just sort of a weird thing to go after. When you start talking about things like illustrations and using intellectual properties, I can understand wanting to defend those things. But you have to look at the ethical side of things along with the legal side of things. Legally, is Nintendo within their right to do this? Of course they are. This is their company. This is their IPs. These are the properties that they have developed. These are the games that they have developed. But when they're not readily available or easily available to get these games otherwise in a format that will benefit Nintendo financially, is it really worth going down this avenue? A lot of these games that are being downloaded are not available to download on Nintendo platforms right now. The Nintendo Switch does not offer any sort of virtual console service. Of course, that is coming via the subscription update that is hitting this fall, but as of right now, you can't do anything with it. There's the classic consoles, of course, but a lot of those have third-party games on there, and a lot of the games that are being mentioned in this lawsuit are not available on these classic consoles. So how is Nintendo really losing on these older games that are not available on a virtual console, that are not available on a classic console? Plus, you have to factor in how many ROM websites there are in the world. There are so many ROM websites. I've been downloading ROMs since like 2000. And with a lot of ROM websites, I figure it like this. The people that are looking for the ROMs of these games, the people that are wanting to download these games illegally, are not planning on buying these games in the first place. They're not planning on going out and spending money on a virtual console thing or picking up a used copy, which, once again, a used copy of the game would not benefit you. And all of these games that are being talked about would, of course, be used copies. So while Nintendo is completely within their legal right to do this, I have to ask the question, is it really worth going after an individual website? Is it really worth going after an individual company for doing this when so many different companies out there are doing the exact same thing? There are so many ROM websites out there. It's so easy to get ROMs for things. There's of course things like Raspberry Pis, which come preloaded with a million different NES games. There are third-party companies out there making these NES hacks or these NES clone consoles and stuff that have over 500 games on there. There's multi-carts out there where you can get 150 games or 500 games on one cartridge. I don't really understand how Nintendo singles out a website to do this, but I guess I could sort of understand why they do this, because basically what this is going to do is potentially scare people. It'll potentially scare people into not going down this avenue, because if Nintendo comes knocking at your door asking for $100 million, I'm sure you have not made $100 million in ad revenue. I'm sure you've not made $100 million in donations. But in the same breath, you have to once again factor in the people that are looking at ROMs. I've actually used ROMs to figure out if I wanted to purchase a game or not. A game like 9 Hours, 9 Persons, and 9 Doors on the Nintendo DS was a game that I didn't know if I would be interested in it. And this was well after the DS had already seen its heyday, and it was pretty hard to come across Nintendo DS games. But I ended up looking at a ROM for this game and checking out a ROM for it, and I ended up liking it, and I found a new copy on Amazon, and I ended up picking it up. And I probably never would have bought that game without checking a ROM out beforehand. There are so many streamers, there are so many huge people out there that are streaming ROMs constantly. There's things like the EverDrive out there, things like the aforementioned third-party systems that come preloaded with games. You could buy these games at Walmart half the time. So I don't know. I could definitely see why Nintendo does something like this. You don't want piracy running rampant. You don't want everyone out there just going like the wild, wild west, and you want to protect your IPs. But in the same breath, I think this thing has gotten so big and so out of control that there's really no stopping it. For every website that you shut down, 10 more will pop up. So is it a fight worth even fighting? Is it even worth going into battle against these companies? Because you're going to end up getting negative PR from this. People will be upset by this, and although you are within your legal right, there's the whole ethical side of things too. And a lot of people just feel like this wouldn't be worth it. So I want to know in the comments section down below what you think of this situation. Do you completely side with Nintendo on this? Do you think they're 100% right? They should be going after these websites? Or do you think it's a losing battle because of how many different websites there are out there that offer ROMs and emulators and things of the same nature that this one website is doing, but for some reason this one website is targeted? And as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Depending on when you're watching this video, I am doing a $20 eShop gift card giveaway for the Nintendo Switch's eShop, so make sure you enter that. I'll have a link in the description box down below. Thank you for watching to the end of this video, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Later.